We have Joseph Leonidas Henley at the table now joining us. First of all, my friend, how is your hand? I've seen pictures online, and we see a little ridge there that looks like the San Andreas Fault.
I actually, I just had stitches taken out of my hand today. When I broke it in fighting at Badbeat 8,
yes,
they put a plate in, and the plate didn't take too well, and so I still couldn't make a fist. About 2 months later, the doctor said we needed to take the plate out, and so about a week ago they took the plate out, and I just had the stitches taken out today, and so I'm out another 4 months, and so here I am smiling and enjoying inactivity.
You're almost always smiling. Tail the tape real fast too, because we don't do this disservice to Chavez or Valdez. Here you see 6-0 for Chavez and Valdez, 6-2. So 2 defeats between both guys out of 14 total fights, and a title fight on the line. First title fight in Bamma USA.
Little history being made. First championship fight of any weight class here at 155.
Now you gotta understand though, George Valdez is one of his 2 losses comes from Jason Manley, who's a Cesar Gracie black belt. They were totally in a huge jiu-jitsu fight the entire fight.
Yeah, I remember that.
George being a phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy in his own aspect and a great fighter, you know what I mean? I was so impressed watching George's submission defense and his attacks, you know, from the ground, from top, from bottom. I mean, he was constantly going for things. So George is always a dangerous fighter and a fun fighter to watch, you know what I mean? Even if you're a striking aspect type of fan, George's jiu-jitsu comes through so aggressively. It's kind of like a Josh Barnett type jiu-jitsu where you really enjoy watching it, you know what I mean? So
very offensive, very attack-oriented,
you know,
all angles, very fun.
You know, fans of UFC, you know, they look back to where Matt Serra really brought that jiu-jitsu, where it was so attacking in the beginning, where a lot of people were really looking to be on their back and, you know, look for the submission or, you know, hope the submission would come. You know, George takes that aspect of he's going to make the submission happen. It's going to be more
proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. I'm going to make you put your hand in the wrong spot. I'm going to make you put your neck in the wrong spot. And so it's always a phenomenal thing to watch. I love watching George fight.
Yeah, we've enjoyed watching him here too. He's always ready too. He's another guy you don't worry about his conditioning. You don't worry about him being prepared. And he has a pocket full of submissions too. Like I said, he is just constantly fluid in his movement.
Now, I got to tell you, I got to laugh. I mean, when I fought, I think it was Badbeat 6, maybe. I fought back in 2011. George is on the card. We're at weigh-ins, and I'm laughing because I look at George, and I think he had trimmed the beard a little bit, trimmed the little chin strap. I swear to God, I was looking at the mini GSP. I was dying laughing. He started talking, and I was like, I couldn't help but point and laugh, and I wasn't sure what to say. I was like, oh, God, I don't want to insult the poor kid, but I'm like,
there he is.
All he needs is the George St. Pierre Kermit the Frog voice to complete the whole experience.
The Envy. George Valdez taking on Ernest Chavez. Lightweight title.
For the first ever Bamma USA lightweight title. Referee in charge is Mike Beltran. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. His official weight, 155 pounds. Fighting out of Total MMA and OC Boxing and Fitness. Please welcome from Raleigh, California, Ernest E.J. Chavez.
I really have a feeling that this fight's gonna continue the trend of the action-filled fights we've had tonight. Like, both these guys definitely bring a lot to the table.
Valley Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. Let's welcome from Palm Desert, California, George the Envy Valdez.
Well, if you're going to have a title fight, especially your first one in the promotion's history, you want to have 2 guys that have made a case for having any kind of a strap put around their waist. I think both of these guys have done that before tonight.
Here we go, Jorge Valdez.
5-minute rounds.
First championship title fight in Bamma USA history. Bamma USA Badbeat 9.
And making history, the first title fight in Bamma USA. Joseph Leonidas Henley at the table with myself, the Yak Man, Ron Yakovetti, and R.J. Clifford. So making this even more memorable for us to have you here, sir.
There we go. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Now, the fun thing about watching George is George can be so aggressive with his stand-up because of how comfortable he feels on the ground. So he doesn't mind being here, you know what I mean? He's able to make such an exciting fight standing because of how comfortable he is on the ground.
Yeah. Chavez made Valdez pay a little bit for pulling that guard. Now he's working the top game. Valdez working for a triangle, kind of an awkward armbar.
Yeah, his submissions are lethal.
I've always been impressed. It's amazing to see how strong George's his legs are, you know what I mean? He even when he's not in a perfect position, he's still able to hold a lot of positions.
And some folks will see a guy like him pulling a lot of submissions and having a lot of attempts as almost they see it as a detriment at some point because he's not finishing the other guy either. But there's other factors that go into that.
You know, it's one thing as a fighter and a former. For me, I used to be more jiu-jitsu than striking, and you know what I mean. People see a lot of submission attempts and they go, "Well, it doesn't hurt the guy." I'm like, "Well, if a guy goes for an armbar and it's close, trust me, it hurts. It's not the same. If he went for a triangle and I was damn near asleep, that hurt me. That hurt my cardio. You know what I mean? You may not see blood. You may not see." Oh, well, he hit him hard, but trust me, it still hurts.
Or a Kimura that wears out your shoulder. I mean, there's a lot of things I can do. And here we go. As we're talking about submissions, a brutal ground and pound is coming up from the top from Ernest E.J. Chavez. Valdez now working for an armbar. Or is it, I can't tell if it's a triangle. I can't tell from the side. A deep triangle.
Oh, he's out.
Yeah, Chavez looks like he's out.
But you know what? You got to give Ernest the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he's bringing that top ground and pound with no fear, you know what I mean? And he definitely has to believe in his jiu-jitsu escapability, and you know he doesn't feel like he's gonna get caught. And if he gets caught, he feels like he can get out. He's already gotten out of 2 good submission attempts by George. So
we got 5 5-minute rounds scheduled with this fight, and this already looks like if it continues, it's going to be crazy. You have 2 guys that are completely imposing their will, but they're taking turns.
You've definitely got a lot of back and forth. You know, George definitely throwing the jiu-jitsu game at him, and Ernest definitely bringing the heat from top. So
George has a granite jaw, too. I think that's one of the things that makes him dangerous is that he gets hit sometimes more than he should, and he takes it and he keeps trying to get submissions. And that's going to get tiring for EJ if he has to keep dealing with that over the long haul.
And Chavez was punching really hard and punching a lot here early in the first round. If he can keep that momentum, keep that up for 5 rounds, it could be trouble for Valdez, but Valdez always relentless with his submission attempts, excuse me.
Now I got to say, if I was EJ, I would be looking more for elbows than punches, because punches from that position, you know, I mean, very rarely do they really finish a fight, especially with a jiu-jitsu guy. You know what I mean? You throw the elbows, you can definitely cut him. You know, you can bring a lot more stress to a guy with the elbows from the top position than you can with a lot of punches, unless you bring a lot of power. He looks like he's throwing, but I definitely feel like he's going to tire out a little bit. Now that you see George is getting that wrist control, the triangle is going to be a danger. You know what I mean? I would definitely start to look for elbows from the top if I was EJ.
If they both get to keep taking turns at imposing their game plan and doing what they want to do, this could be a lot more about will than skill. When Chavez starts striking, it's all Chavez. When Valdez starts going for submissions and throwing his guard up high and hipping out, it's a whole different game.
You got to really be impressed, though, with EJ's hips. I mean, every time that Georges goes for that Kimura sweep, EJ's totally hipping in. He's very strong. He's in that position. He's not feeling, he's not feeling weak.
And it makes Valdez pay too. I mean, if you miss an armbar, you miss a triangle, you now get a chance to pass. You got some free shots. Chavez's ground and pound has been pretty much the story of this first round. Now he's got a crucifix position, but not a lot of time.
25 possible minutes of championship action scheduled. We've only gotten 5 of those minutes, and already we're seeing why there's a title involved.
Beautiful round. You know what I mean? I love seeing the submission attempts by George. I definitely think that EJ took the round with the amount of strikes that he threw, but that was definitely a lot of fun watching the back and forth.
Not an overly surprising round. Valdez going for submission after submission after submission. Chavez maintaining position, dropping some ground and pound. We'll see which fighter makes an adjustment or if we see more of the same in the second.
It's interesting a lot of times when you go from round to round, the adjustments that one fighter needs to make are apparent, and there's one, usually perhaps maybe more dominant one, who does not have to make adjustments, maybe just keep the game plan going. But it's arguable that they could both maybe make adjustments because they both had moments of control and dominance, but not wholeheartedly, not for the whole round.
I think Chavez learned that he can get past the guard of Valdez, get himself out of any sort of submission trouble, and get in a dominant position, continue that ground and pound. And Valdez learned, Chavez is going to be tough to sweep. He's going to be tough to submit. Maybe playing the guard game for the whole 25 minutes may not be the best route.
It's going to be fun to see how George opens up this round.
Well, there it is.
Until that happened.
Quick takedown by Chavez.
He was starting to strike, but then the takedown by Chavez, and he goes immediately to side almost. And he's trying for guard recovery as Valdez, and he does. He recovered his guard.
I think in the end the question's going to be, is George able to keep enough in his legs, playing off his back, to take advantage of EJ getting tired on top throwing punches? I mean, people think that that's not tiring. That's still very tiring. You know what I mean? I don't think that EJ is going to finish him from George's guard. I really don't feel like EJ is going to pass his guard. But can George get off his back and into a more dominant position?
He is comfortable there, too. He works very well off of his back. But Chavez has already shown. Chavez, of course, in the black, Valdez in the red and white.
And there's a close sweep. Back to their feet now. I think we're getting another takedown out of Chavez here, most likely.
I don't think we've seen anybody dominating the stand-up battle. I think we've just seen two completely different strategies on the ground.
Well, Chavez, I think it's apparent. Valdez is so comfortable on his back, throwing submission attempts. That's got to be like the 8th triangle that Valdez has tried in the opening, almost 7 minutes of this fight. And Chavez doesn't seem to be worried about it. He's just landing his ground and pound, maintaining top position, and winning rounds.
He's moving off to the side there, getting out of that triangle, even being a possibility. Now he's got the half guard of Valdez. He's not past it, but he's looking to step over and get inside it.
You got to love the support that EJ has from the crowd right now. We can hear him his crowd is definitely deep in his corner and supporting that kid.
Well, 6-0, up-and-coming fighter, his first championship fight. A lot to be excited for if you're an EJ Chavez fan.
Two completely different approaches to battling this out on the ground. Two and a half minutes left in the second. Chavez on the top, Ernest E.J. Chavez. George the Envy Valdez on the bottom. He's in the red and white trim.
We were talking about this earlier in the broadcast with Chad, but it's almost like being so comfortable on your back can be a detriment for Valdez because he's losing these rounds and he's really not getting close to these submissions. Some are get tighter than others, but he really hasn't overly threatened Chavez on these submissions. And being so comfortable there, even though you're losing rounds, is almost a detriment. There's not a lot of sense of urgency out of Valdez.
I think that's one of the things that as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, you really believe in your ability to catch somebody. And you see a lot of strikers who, sometimes it's hard to catch guys at the lower weights. It's hard to knock guys out. But everybody can be submitted, So guys believe in that ability to finish fights, and they just kind of go for it too much. You know what I mean? They don't do enough to win the rounds. I'm a big believer in the fact that jiu-jitsu totally finishes fights more than punches, but you need to set that jiu-jitsu up with punches. The more that you throw the strikes, the more that the jiu-jitsu game will open up. And if you're really attacking with the elbows, with the knees, with the strikes, the more you make somebody on top worry, the more they're going to be apt to make a mistake and give you something.
Is that getting sweaty and slippery as the fight goes on something that kind of falls off your radar until you're in that moment when it's a factor and you're like, oh, this is not going to be as easy as I thought?
You know what it is? To me, it's hard anything off the back. I mean, even when you're dry, you're really not that, you know what I mean? You're not in that good of position. You know what I mean? Now, George does a phenomenal job of wrist control, you know what I mean? When you see the better jiu-jitsu guys, you see that they're always fighting for that wrist control, you know, no matter what. You know, you're not going to hit a great jiu-jitsu fighter that much when he's in shape because he will always be fighting for your wrist. Now, that's where elbows come into play because even though you're holding my wrist, I can definitely come over the top of the elbows, you know what I mean? But if you can get good wrist control as a bottom guy, I mean, the triangles are there, the arm bars become there, the sweeps become there, and so it's all that much different. Uh-oh.
I think another clean round for Chavez, more of the same, being on top, landing the ground and pound. Valdez certainly valiantly going for his submission attempts and sweeps, but Chavez seems to be pretty wise whatever Valdez is throwing.
2 rounds down, the first ever Bamma USA Championship bout. This is a lightweight contest. Ernest E.J. Chavez, right there, undefeated 6-0, taking on George the Envy Valdez. Valdez right there, 6-2. And so far, Chavez may be doing just a little bit more to be in the driver's seat here. And we've still got potentially 15 more minutes of these guys going at it. That is what they call in the financial world an ROI. That is a return on your investment right there, because that is, you bought a ticket or even took the time to watch this fight.
I'm just wondering if Valdez will change it up. I mean, we've seen Valdez fight so many times here in Bamma and other organizations as well, and it's always kind of the same way that he fights. Comfortable off his back, going for triangles, going for Kimurs and what have you. I'm just wondering what he can do to change things up. Maybe strike a little bit more.
I think it would be smart for George to definitely get a little bend in the legs and try to get a little bit more from that striking game. But the way that EJ definitely
big left hook drop. Valdez.
Wow.
EJ's now going for the finish. Valdez trying to hang on.
Power is the great equalizer sometimes when you wield it like that.
Valdez is just clinging on for dear life. Chavez trying desperately to finish. It looks like Valdez may have recovered.
We may have forgotten to mention Chavez having some heavy hands.
I think EJ is just going to stand up.
I think if EJ was smart, he would back up and he would allow George to get in a position that he's not comfortable in. George is very comfortable off his back. Move up.
Yep, EJ walks away, says we're standing up.
There we go. Put him where he doesn't want to be.
Valdez is definitely hurt.
The thing that'll kill a jiu-jitsu fighter standing on his feet is looking for that one shot if he doesn't have one-shot power. You know, George is throwing a one jab and his hand is dropping. He's throwing that one straight and his hand is dropping.
Yep.
You know, he doesn't mind if EJ gets in tight because he thinks he can get here. And that's just not going to win you fights, you know, especially in the decision range. EJ has, at least 2 decision wins in his record. You know he's already ready to win that fight. You know, you don't want to give him that opportunity.
Obviously, Valdez can submit just about anybody in the Bamma USA cage, but it is so rare for a fighter to be able to consistently win rounds, win fights, fighting off his back. It is just so difficult to do today in mixed martial arts.
You know, as a fighter, I definitely believe in the jiu-jitsu from the top game.
Yep.
That's my favorite place to play jiu-jitsu because off the back, you really take a lot of punishment. If you're on top, play that jiu-jitsu game because he's not winning.
Yep.
Your opponent's not winning from the bottom.
The ball's in your court on top.
Exactly, you know what I mean? That's when you have the opposition to throw those punches to set up things. At Badbeat 8 when I submitted Miguel, that was the thing. I took him down with a single leg. And I was going to get ready to strike, and I knew where he would go in order to get up, and that's where the Darce came into play. And so, I was able to get that submission, even with my broken hand, and get out of the fight and make sure that everything was good.
It's almost like every sequence is exactly the same. Valdez goes for a triangle. Chavez tries to pass over to the right. Valdez doesn't let him, so he goes back over to the left and into half guard. I mean, we've seen this sequence multiple times. I think this is a Kimura now. Yeah, Kimura attempt out of Chavez. Valdez wise to it. And back to guard. See if EJ stands back up again. Yep, he does.
Valdez kicked him as he walked away. Chavez clearly knew that he was fighting a guy who was going to be going for submissions left and right.
This might be it. This might be it for Chavez. Raining some punches from his top position. Valdez moving just enough to not stop the fight.
And he always seems to be able to do that.
I think this is going to be it. Valdez not showing any sort of movement.
He's blocking still. If he's active enough, we're looking at a very, very adept referee. Mike Beltran's not going to stop it unless it really looks like Chavez.
He looks really close, and that's it.
And that's the end of the fight.
Ernest E.J. Chavez is your new Bamma USA lightweight champion, the brand new champion, first champion in history.
You got to admit, that was a very impressive fight from EJ.
Just relentless.
I mean, whenever he was in top position, very good jiu-jitsu in the sense of defense, and he was very aggressive in the spots that he could be aggressive in.
Here's some of the highlights of that finish right there. I mean, he was dropping that hand like a pendulum. He was just not going to stop. I think he saw the finish line and made a dash for it.
Just a smart game plan by Chavez. He knew this was a 25-minute fight. He stayed on top, kept landing his ground and pound, stay out of submission trouble, and he's walking home with a shiny new belt now for his efforts.
The Monsoon, Lorenz Larkin now steps up to the table. As R.J. Clifford steps away, he's going to go into the cage and get an interview probably with both the combatants from that last fight. Our new champion, Ernest E.J. Chavez, 7-0, and with a belt to prove it.
All right, I'm not another 4 fucking months. I'm not fighting until next February. So I'm fat as shit right now. Not the happiest man right now. When you getting after it again?
You're watching Bamma USA's Badbeat number 9.
Soon, how you feeling?
Go to badbeatmma.com for more of the highlights, interviews, past events. If you want to see some of the stuff that's led us to these bouts tonight, including this title match, and some of the upcoming matchmaking that will be coming in the next Bamma shows at badbeatmma.com. So while we're waiting for the official word, you got to talk to Lorenz Larkin for a couple minutes.
Oh man, I love Lorenz. You know, Lorenz has been a friend when I was first really starting to build my career after the Ultimate Fighter. I talked to Lorenz's manager. I was shopping around, and although I didn't choose to go with his manager, they were both very impressive in the sense of how they approached it, how they got after everything, and been real good friends with Lorenz ever since. Trained together.
For your winner by technical knockout due to strikes, and is now the new Bamma USA lightweight champion, Ernest E.J. Chavez.
All right, I'm here with your winner and new lightweight champion, E.J. Chavez. E.J., talk about that fight. Your opponent was going for submission after submission. You were able to stay out of all those attempts. Were any of those close?
Oh, most definitely. Jorge is an awesome submission specialist. I worked day in and day out to stay out those submission locks that I saw in his previous fights. But man, he's tough when you're in there with him for sure. A lot harder than when I practice.
The third round looked a lot different. You dropped him with a punch, and you were starting to stand up a little bit after going back to the ground. Did you think you had the advantage standing up?
You know, I thought I could go everywhere with him, but on the ground, he was a lot tougher than I expected. So, you know, going into the third round, I was like, man, I better stand a little more. It's a little easier that way.
Talk us through the finish. Did you know you had him towards the end of the third?
I know that he was taking longer to react. So I figured if I just sprinted the rest of like 2 minutes, he might give out and end up working out.
How's it feel being the first Bamma USA lightweight champion?
It's awesome. And as long as I'm still here, I'm going to protect it and defend it as many times as they allow.
He's your winner, 7-0, the new and first Bamma USA lightweight champion. Give it up, EJ Chavez!